Hello, and welcome to this lecture on geography. The learning objectives for this lecture are to understand what geography is, understand why geography is important, and identify the various tools used by geographers. When beginning to talk about a topic like geography, it is sometimes helpful to use a formal definition. One formal definition of geography from the Royal Geographic Society is that it is the study of the Earth's landscapes, people, places, and environment. We can learn many things from geography. The following images are very brief starting points to give you some examples. The image on the top left shows a team of high school students using a map to identify and understand damage done to a local upstate New York community that happened after a flooding episode. Geographers are inherently interested in how people and the places they live interact and relate with one another, especially in the case of a flood where a community has suffered physical, economic, and emotional damage. The image on the bottom right is a picture I took in Rwanda. Many countries around the world, including Rwanda, are facing serious challenges due to climate change. Geographers are also interested in how people interact with their natural environments and how natural, social, economic, and other processes interact with one another at multiple spatial and temporal scales. An idea I've always found captivating for thinking about what geography is and why it is important is the idea of geographical context. Although this idea may seem abstract at first, one way I've found as a good way to understand the idea of geographical context is thinking about it like a news reporter asking basic who, what, when, where, why, and how questions about a given geographical thing. Disasters often make a good example for explaining ideas around geographical context and geographical representation tools. In this image, you see a hurricane tracking map. Look closely at this image and use the who, what, when, where, why, and how type questions to understand the geographical context of a hurricane. For example, where will the hurricane go? When will the hurricane go to certain places? Why might the hurricane go to one place versus another? How might we know where the hurricane is going or not going? What geographic scales from local to national to international should we consider with this hurricane? Geographers have developed numerous tools over the centuries for representing and analyzing geographical context. Perhaps the first tool most people will think of are maps. Maps have existed for centuries, long before computer tools like Google Maps or geographic information systems. The image on the left demonstrates how far back maps actually go. This is a cuneiform tablet from ancient Mesopotamia that shows a map of Babylonia and the surrounding islands. The map on the right is probably one you are more familiar with. This shows results of the 2012 presidential election in the United States. Although these maps are very different from one another in terms of their design and presentation, they both serve the same purpose of representing geographical context. The following are a few short demonstrations of modern geographers' tools to get you thinking more about what is possible with geography and related computer technology. Here we see a modern Geographic Information System, or GIS. At the center of the GIS is the map. This is a map showing Monroe County in upstate New York, where Rochester, New York is located. The map can be interacted with using tools such as zoom in or zoom out, pan, and even zoom to full extent. GIS has become a hallmark of the modern geographer's tool set in its powerful representation and analytic capabilities. For example, map layers can be easily turned on and off, as in this example turning roads, or turning on local place names as represented by points. Another important aspect of GIS is its ability to store data and information spatially. For example, by clicking on this tool known as the Identify tool, I can find information out about various U.S. Census tracts in Monroe County. In this example, I clicked on a census tract and it gives me a variety of information about the population characteristics of this census tract. The ancient art of science of cartography is also integrated into modern GIS tools. For example, I can build what is known as a thematic map by right-clicking on a given map layer and changing its symbology. In this case, I want to know the population of elderly people between ages 65 and 74. By simply selecting the value, the map will update to display the underlying data based on my selection. A tool that many people are familiar with is shown here. This is the virtual globe Google Earth. Google Earth is a fun and interesting way to explore geography. It is highly interactive and very visual and easy to operate, much more so than geographic information system tools like you saw previously. You can easily explore the Earth using visible satellite imagery, adjust the representation into a three-dimensional view, and incorporate various data sets created by the Google Earth community. In this example, I will look at historic maps that have been digitally created for use in Google Earth. Here we see a map of Poland from the mid-19th century that I can add to the map by clicking on the map thumbnail. Note how this historic map from the 19th century is overlaid and spatially referenced with the underlying modern geography and correct latitude and longitude coordinate locations. Here we see an example of a web-based mapping tool known as OpenStreetMap. OpenStreetMap makes it easy to explore maps at different scales around the world. OpenStreetMap in particular is an interesting technology and underlying data community in that all of the contents of OpenStreetMap are provided by volunteers, much like Wikipedia articles. As you can see, working in a web browser, I can pan and zoom around and explore geography around the world. In this lecture, you learned about what geography is. Specifically, you learned it is all about the world we live in. Ideally, you came away from this lecture with getting a sense of why geography is important. Geography is important because it gives us a sense by which we can understand the world around us, the people we live with, the places we live in, and the spatial and temporal interactions and processes that create our world. Finally, you were given an introduction to various tools used by geographers. Specifically, you were shown an example of a Geographic Information System, or GIS, a virtual globe, and a web-based mapping tool. These are by no means the only tools used by geographers, and you are encouraged to examine others. If you enjoyed this lecture, feel free to contact me at the email address below.